guys, Sonduren Fanarredha. Today we're going to be doing a video on how to properly polish your motorcycle or your car. So I've been a professional detailer for the last 5 years, and I think it's really important for everybody before they do something like this to their car to really understand what's actually going on when they go ahead and polish their car. So you have your body panel, your primer, your base coat. Your base coat's the actual color coat, and the clear coat. The clear coat is exactly what it sounds like. It's a clear coating that goes over the base coat to protect it. So the vast majority of scratches you're going to find on the finish of your motorcycle or your car are going to be clear coat scratches. These are the scratches that don't actually penetrate down into the base coat and the primer. And these are the scratches that are going to be easy to remove with the proper tools, and that's what I'm going to show you today. If you have a scratch that's a paint scratch or a deep paint scratch, those went into the base coat and into the primer. You can't do anything about these scratches unless you touch it up or repaint the entire panel. And a good tip for this, if you see a deep scratch on your paint, if you run your fingernail across it, does your fingernail catch the scratch? If it does, most likely it's too deep to remove, but we can definitely lessen it with the process that we're going to follow today. Now, the purpose of polishing your paint is going to be to remove the top layer of clear coat to a degree where we can level the surface of the clear coat, because currently, if you see in this diagram, our clear coat's not level anymore. It's got deep scratches, paint scratches, the oxidation, it's making an uneven surface. And that's the reason why when we look at our cars or motorcycles, we see all these swirls and scratches, because the light is no longer reflecting off the clear coat in a uniform manner and is now being interrupted by these deep scratches and clear coat scratches and everything else. And that's how we see these imperfections in the paint. So the purpose of polishing is going to be to level out the top layer of clear coat. But there's going to be a few things I want to mention. Number one, once you remove clear coat, you can't ever put it back on. Your factory clear coat is a finite amount of clear coat, and we need to make sure we don't take off an excessive amount of clear coat that we don't have to. If you look at this diagram, let's say we wanted to remove the oxidation, stains, and the bird muck. We'd want to remove no more than the amount to get rid of all of that from the clear coat. We wouldn't want to remove all the clear coat there. We'd want to remove just the right amount to get all that stuff off, because we want to preserve as much clear coat on your factory finish as possible. We're going to have to make sure your car or motorcycle is completely clean and contaminant free. I've made a video on how to properly wash and wax your motorcycle. You can also use this for your car. Now you're going to want to make sure you get it completely clean and have your car or motorcycle clay barred. It's super important that you clay bar your car or motorcycle, because it's going to remove the embedded contaminants that a wash can't remove on its own. And it's also super important because when we're polishing the paint, the pad is going to get into contact with any of those contaminants that haven't been removed with a clay bar, and it's only going to instill scratches back into the clear coat. So I'm going to be using my neighbor's Camaro for this demonstration. Now my bike's already been polished, but the same applies for a car's paint to a motorcycle's paint, as long as it's a clear coated paint. So I'm going to walk you guys through exactly what you'll need to properly polish your car or motorcycle. So I'll start with the most aggressive stuff, and I don't recommend you use this until you try the least aggressive methods first, is wet sanding paper. This stuff's super aggressive and it requires a video on its own to get knowledgeable about that. This is a really popular pad, an orange cutting pad. If you've got a lot of big defects, this is the pad that you're going to use to remove a lot of those heavy scratches. This is the Lake Country White CCS foam polishing pad. So this removes lighter scratches and clear coat imperfections. And finally, the black Lake Country pad, which you use to apply waxes or sealants. It's super soft. These foam pads are going to be used in conjunction with a different set of products. We have the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. This is going to be used with your orange cutting pad. This is going to really cut into the deepest swirls and scratches that your motorcycle or car paint has. Meguiar's Ultimate Polish will be used in conjunction with the Lake Country Polishing Pad. This polish is really going to kind of take away the smaller, lighter swirl marks that you'll find on your paint, and it's really going to bring up the shine and clarity of the paint, because after a compounding, for example, the paint's going to have a little bit of haze because the compound really gets down into the clear coat and levels it, and there's going to be some minor hazing, which the polish completely removes and brings it up to that high gloss shine that we expect. And finally, Meguiar's Ultimate Liquid Wax. This is actually a sealant, should last about 6 months on your paint, and this is going to provide you that extra protection, that gloss onto your paint. And you know what? You can apply any wax, and the black foam pad doesn't have any cutting ability, so it's made just for applying the wax or sealant onto the paint. Now, these products that I'm showing you here are the Meguiar's Ultimate series. They're derived from their professional series of products, and they're more consumer friendly, they're cheap, and easy to access. I'm going to be listing all these products and tools in the description below with all the links, but you know what? These are highly regarded, and I've used a lot of different brands, Menzerna, everything else, Wolfgang, and I keep coming back to the Meguiar's products because of the reputation that they've earned and the results that I've achieved with my own details. So when you're looking at these products, I want you to think about the Ultimate compound being the most aggressive with the orange pad. This is the most aggressive combo that you're going to use to tackle deep scratches and swirls. Now you look at the Ultimate polish on the white pad. This is a step down from the orange pad and Ultimate compound. The benefit of the step down here, while it's not going to remove as many swirls and deep scuffs as the Ultimate compound in the orange pad, it's going to leave your paint with that superior shine and finish. So basically every time you do use the compound in the orange pad, because it digs in so deep into the clear coat, it creates a haze that only this polish with the white pad can remove. Now, how are we going to go ahead and use those pads and products on our paint? There's two options that I have available for you. The most popular beginner option is the Porter Cable Dual Action Polisher. This is a great beginner product. It's going to allow you to do those heavy corrections. It's small, versatile, and cheap. Great for the beginner or weekend warrior. And here's the Clover 21mm Dual Action Polisher. This is basically just an upgraded professional unit of the Porter Cable unit. It's got a bigger throw, it can correct more, it's got more power, and can access a bigger pad size. More of a professional unit, not necessarily needed if you're doing it for the first time or you're doing this occasionally. So what both of these polishers have in common, and it's an amazing feature for detailing and paint correction, is that they're both dual action units. This means while the pad's actually rotating around, it's actually going around differently in orbit each time it comes around. So it's not being held into one circular motion like your typical rotary polisher. This is great because it acts as a safety net for you, because now you're not going to be maybe cutting in too deep into one section too much, creating too much heat and possibly burning through your clear coat. Alright, so we're all finally set up. We have your car or motorcycle. It's completely clean. You've clay barred it and there's nothing else on the paint. You have not waxed it. You've washed it. You've clay barred it. It's as clean as it possibly can be. Now let's go ahead and inspect the paint. It doesn't have any wax on it. It's completely clean, no contaminants. We can see its true condition. So here we're going to take a look and see, okay, how bad is it really? We see on my neighbor's Camaro, it's really bad. This paint has been neglected. It's never been polished or corrected. It has tons of swirls. It doesn't even look red anymore. It's almost like a shade of pink. It's really, really in bad shape. It's like you can see the oxidation. You can see the amount of swirls. It's in really bad shape. So what we're going to do here is tape off a section and we're going to do a test spot. We want to see what method we can use, what products and what pad, the least aggressive method first to get the correction that we want and for the paint to look the way we want it. Now, again, remember, we're using the least aggressive method first because we want to retain as much clear coat as possible. So we're using the least aggressive method in hope of correcting the paint to the degree that we'd like. The other reason why we usually do a test spot is because not all manufacturers' clear coat reacts the same to a pad and polish combination. So one manufacturer's paint may get corrected by a simple polish and white pad, when another manufacturer's paint, to get the same degree of paint correction, we may need to use the compound and orange cutting pad. With that said, we're going to be using Meguiar's Ultimate Polish with the Lake Country CCS white polishing pad. So for the section that I've taped off behind me, you're going to want to put 4 equal drops of Ultimate Polish on each side of the pad and 1 little drop in the middle. This is going to make sure that we aren't dry buffing and that we have enough product working into the paint. So we have the pad on the Porter Cable Polisher. You see me spreading the product all around the area that we're about to polish. Now, we're going to be setting up on setting 5 for the Porter Cable because we do want some paint correction ability. We want to go on a higher power level here. We're going to do a horizontal pass across the paint. We'll do a 50% overlap, and once we've covered it all horizontally, we're going to go vertically and do a same 50% overlap until we're done. So that's in itself 1 full pass, and we'll want to do this 4 to 5 times to make sure we get that correction done on the paint. Now, you're going to notice the speed that I'm doing this in. So you want to go at a moderate speed here. You want to put a decent amount of pressure on there. And now, you're going to want to make sure that the pad is actually rotating. If you actually see the video here, you see the orange and yellow backing plate, and you see that's actually rotating. If you're pressing too hard, you won't see that rotating, and the Porter Cable is just going to be rumbling. This is protecting you from possibly burning your paint by putting too much pressure on the spot. So that's the great thing about the dual action polisher. So you're going to see me here going in these nice, consistent, overlapping motions across the paint, putting a moderate amount of pressure on, but not too hard where it's stalling the pad. Once we've done 4 to 6 passes, you'll notice the polish starting to break down into the paint, and that's when we can go ahead, buff off, and inspect our results. And look at that, the left side hasn't been touched and the right side's been polished. Took out a lot of the swirls and scratches, really refined the paint, brought the color back to life, and for most people this result is great. Though if we're looking for perfection, we do see there are still some minor swirls and scratches left that the polish and the white pad could not remove. Thus, we're going to go ahead and go to the next aggressive method. This is why a test spot is super important, because now we know, okay, for this car with this clear coat, we're going to need at least an orange cutting pad with the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound to get the best correction possible to near perfection. Now, we're basically going to be wanting to do the exact same technique and steps that we did with our polishing pad with a few minor changes. Number one, obviously, we're going to be using the orange cutting pad now with the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. We're going to be using the same amount of product that we used with the Ultimate Polish, and we're still going to be spreading it across the paint to make sure we get even coverage. Now, since we're using an aggressive pad with a compound, we want to also amplify that with a higher speed on our dual action polisher to really get that cut into the clear coat. In this example here, I'm going to be using setting 6, the strongest setting on my dual action polisher. And I just want to make it clear that you really want to be mindful of moving the polisher around. And I've mentioned this before, but you don't want to stay at the same spot. We'll want to do 4 to 6 passes again with the same polisher going horizontally and then vertically. Once that's done, we'll go ahead, wipe off, and inspect our results. But again, you will see I'm applying a moderate amount of pressure again here. Maybe a little bit more pressure than I was using with the original polish. A little bit more pressure, but the pad's still spinning. We're not stalling the polisher here. Now look at those results. We've removed basically 99% of the scratches and swirls on the paint here, so we've gotten pretty much perfection to the point. Now there's going to be those deeper scratches that I've talked to you about where you may be able to get it with your fingernail that you can't remove. Those you cannot remove, guys. If you can catch it with your fingernail, you can only lessen it, and we did. Those scratches, those minor ones, maybe 2 or 3 on this panel, were minimized at least 50 to 60%, so you don't even see that anymore. But now you have the paint that's completely swirl and scratch free. Now, by the nature of compounding and the orange cutting pad, you may get some hazing on the paint. So in this particular case on the Camaro, we don't have too much hazing, but there is a slight little bit of haze onto the paint, the clarity of the reflection coming back off of it. So you can see this here very slightly, and what we're going to have to do, and this is after any kind of compounding with an orange compound or an orange cutting pad, is that you're going to have to go over it with another polish. So in this case here, we tried the Meguiar's Ultimate Polish beforehand with the white polishing pad. After we finish this compounding like we just did, now we're going to have to go back with the white polishing pad with our Meguiar's Ultimate Polish and refine the finish of the paint. We want to make sure we get all that haze, little minor spider webbing possibly, all gone, and we want to make sure it's crystal clear. Wow, what a difference, guys. We brought back this old paint that was oxidized heavily, scratched, swirled, never cared for, never waxed, and now the paint looks like it's brand new from the factory again. What an amazing difference we see on this. Look at the befores, look at the afters, look at that, the clarity of the paint, the color of the paint. It's incredible the difference here that a compound and polish can make. And the best part is, we're not even done. We're about to add the cherry on the top. We're going to be applying a wax or a sealant, in this case the Meguiar's Ultimate Liquid Wax or the Meguiar's Liquid Carnauba Gold Class Wax. Now, wax has so many benefits between protecting the paint, enhancing the gloss of the paint, making your car or motorcycle easier to wash. I highly recommend you always keep your motorcycle or car waxed. Now, applying the wax, I want you to look at how little wax I've put on the black finishing pad. Very little wax goes a long way. There's a saying, less is more, and that's definitely applicable to waxes or sealants. Because wax only dries on at a very specific micron level, any extra wax that you're putting on, you're going to end up buffing off later. It's just going to be more hard work for you. So you just want to go ahead, apply it evenly across the section or your car or motorcycle, and you want to let it dry. Different waxes or sealants have different drying times, so please read the directions on the back of your bottle. Though in this case here for the Meguiar's Gold Class Liquid Wax, I will be waiting a half an hour before I do a wipe off. The moment of truth. We've done everything. This is the final step. We're going to be buffing off the wax, and here we go, giving it that final crystal clear shine, that depth that the wax provides, and this is going to be the finished product. Look at that. Look at how beautiful the paint looks. Look how clear the red looks. Look how red it is. Look at the paint. Defect-free paint. All we see is beautiful reflection and color. Here's the before. Oxidized, worn out paint with tons of swirls and scratches. and look at the after. What amazing change, what amazing clarity we have on the paint now. It's a beautiful red. All the scratches and swirls and defects are gone. It is absolutely stunning. This is a great correction, and I'm really happy with the results. So that, guys, is how you polish your car or motorcycle paint. There's no difference between the two. You just gotta be careful on your motorcycle. The fairings are smaller. You'll wanna use a smaller pad, like a 3-inch pad. You could probably use a 5-inch pad as well. It's the same thing. But the same stuff applies to both a car paint and a motorcycle's paint, is that you gotta be careful with the polisher. You gotta treat the stuff with respect, and you wanna do the least aggressive method possible at first. We got really good results on this Camaro here, my neighbor's Camaro. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like, wonderful finish. It's just shining bright, like really nicely, compared to what it was right here with all the swirls and scratches and garbage like that. So he's gonna be happy that 1/5 of his car looks good, so you might have to pay me to do the other part. So that is how you polish your car or your motorcycle. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. I've been doing this for 5 years. I know my thing around this stuff, and I do this professionally. I'm a professional detailer. So leave all the questions below. If you like this video, like it. If you dislike this video, dislike it. And please subscribe to my channel, guys. I'm gonna be posting more car care and motorcycle care tips, how to get even deeper scratches out with wet sanding. That's something more intense than compounding and polishing. You gotta be really careful with that. So until then, I'll see you guys in my next video.